Good morning or afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today for the Pet Sustainability Coalition's webinar on sustainable fisheries in the pet industry. We're so excited to have a pretty full house today. We've got an awesome lineup of speakers from both the Marine Stewardship Council and American Seafoods. We are the Pet Sustainability Coalition. We are made up of just about 100 members from all over the world, big companies, little companies, and we are here to help you as pet professionals move your sustainability journey ahead. The way that we do that is on the next slide. We provide education through this webinar series, also through our online toolkit. We provide inspiration, and we're really here to help the pet industry as a whole collaborate and come together around these issues. And then we're here to help you take action, whether it's working on sustainable fish with these amazing gentlemen we're going to talk to today, or supply chain, packaging, whatever. So if you have any questions about the Pet Sustainability Coalition, my contact information will be at the end of the presentation. Please feel free to follow up with me or check out our website. But I will be handing it over to Ken. So Ken, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, my pleasure. And first of all, thank you very much for Melissa for this opportunity. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. I'm not sure where everyone's calling from, but it's a pleasure to have this opportunity, as I said. So I am going to just give you a quick overview of who and what the Marine Stewardship Council does. And then I'll pass it over to JF, who can tell you more about what a sustainable fishery does. So when we talk about, just seeing why this is not clicking forward here, excuse us a second, there we go. So the MSC was developed in the early 1990s by Unilever and WWF. They started this organization during the cod collapse in Eastern Canada, which primarily was Nova Scotia in the cod. That was due to overfishing. They started a collaborative effort to ensure that this did not happen globally anymore. So in 1997, the Marine Stewardship Council took over, short form is MSC. We are considered the most trusted and recognized program of wild, sustainable, and traceable seafood globally. Our main goal is to reverse the effects of overfishing and ensure that fisheries are well managed. Now, we as an organization are a science-based organization, and we operate on two standards. I'll get into them a little bit later, but we operate a fishery standard, and we operate what we can call a chain of custody standard that must be followed throughout the entire supply chain. So why do we do this? Basically, our oceans are vital. About 500 million people globally rely on seafood as their main source of income. Billions of people rely on seafood as the main source of animal protein. When you think about animal proteins, wild seafood truly is the last wild protein available on Earth. So we need to protect it, bring it back to life, and that's what we're here for. And also, seafood is the most traded food commodity in the world. So again, plastics are very big in the news. Everyone's heard about the plastic issues, but overfishing is still the biggest threat to the ocean health and the population of seafood. So meanwhile, we talk about the health and the necessities of the oceans. 31% of the oceans are still overfished. About 15% of the global catch of seafood still comes from illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. It's also called IUU. We are the only organization that works with the United Nations to work with IUU fishing and to minimize it. And of that, approximately 30% of seafood globally is still mislabeled. Depending upon where you are, there's been a lot of news lately about the mislabeling and seafood fraud, and it's a huge issue globally that we're faced with, and we're trying to rectify the situation. So the vision of the MSC is to bring back the oceans and have the world's oceans teeming with life for this and future generations. And how we do it is through our mission, which is to use our eco-label and certification program, which helps bring the oceans back. And we recognize and reward sustainable fishing practices, influence the choices people make when buying seafood, and also we work with our partners to transform the market back to a sustainable basis. So what do we do for our work? We basically provide a global solution to overfishing, ocean health, illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, and offer a security for seafood for the rest of the world. We currently are at 14% of marine capture fisheries engaged in our program. We have a 20% by 2020 goal, and we have a very ambitious goal of to have 30% of global capture, wild capture fisheries engaged in our program by 2030. And we operate and maintain a robust, credible standard, which again enables credibility, credible sustainability claims, and also ensures product integrity throughout the supply chain, right from the fishery all the way through to the retailer or the end user. So what exactly do we do? We at the MSC can help you strengthen your reputation as well as consumer trust. We can help you and assist you by communicating your purpose, demonstrate your leadership, and also mitigate your risk when it comes to food fraud and everything else. So recently, the MSC conducted a global survey by a company called GlobeScan on consumers, and I'll touch on some of these points throughout the presentation, my part of the presentation, we did it globally. Seafood consumers, both retail as well as pet food, and we found that 65% of consumers want to support companies that have a strong purpose. What they have found is that trust is down from large companies as expectations are up with bigger brands. So we want to look at ourselves as a way to, have a little bit more trust. Not that there's not trust within your private labels, but just have another trust assurance to help you out. So these are a few other GlobeScan results that came out of our survey, that we found that 81% of seafood consumers agree we need to protect seafood supplies for future generations, and that 49% of consumers see overfishing as their top ocean concerns. Now, this was a sample of North American consumers, but just over 4,000 consumers. Some other statistics here: 70% want to hear more from companies about their sustainability on fish and seafood products. 70% believe supermarkets and brands' claims about sustainability should be clearly labeled by an independent organization. 23% recall seeing our label, and of those who see it, 65% recognize it. We'll touch on, at the end of my little presentation in a bit, we'll touch on some pet food statistics that we pulled out of this GlobeScan survey. Another point that MSC is able to help you do is communicate simply your message. We have by looking for our eco label, the MSC eco label on packages, it's a quick and easy way of communicating and showing your commitment to a standard of the highest standard in the seafood sustainability issue. We want to help you empower your customers. The MSC is the only organization that is able to measure actual impacts that our fisheries are showing on the water. American Seafoods being one, because that's how we're going to bring the oceans and the seafood populations back to life. And we also want to ensure that you have a reliable supply of wild, sustainable seafood for a long time. We want to be able to meet a growing demand and also help future-proof your business. So just quickly, MSC globally, as I said, we have about 14% of our global marine catch. When a company such as American Seafood has what we call the fisheries standard or fisheries chain of custody standard in place, they consistently have to be trying to make improvements in the way their fish is caught, harvested, etc. Since 2000, we've seen over 1,200 improvements with our MSC fisheries globally to help reduce inventories, increase the stocks, bycatch reduction, etc. So how do we do this? As I mentioned before, we have two standards. Not going to go into a lot of depth at the end. If you wish to contact me, I'd love to have the opportunity to explain more detail. But primarily, the MSC certification program is carried out by third-party certifiers. The MSC, as I mentioned, is the standard holder, and we have third-party auditors who go out and actually audit the fisheries based on a whole number of criteria, but these are the three main points of the MSC standard. Is the stock healthy? Are they treating the ecosystem and the areas they're fishing properly? That means bycatch, not disturbing the ocean floor. Do they have an effective management system in place? Then everyone else throughout the supply chain must have what we call a chain of custody certification, which ensures predominantly traceability. That's what the MSC is all about. We are able to trace product, as I said, from fishery right through the entire supply chain and ensure that you, as a pet food supplier or manufacturer, are in fact getting MSC product and not a substitute product in place. As I said, with MSC traceability, which is the key factor that I really want to drive home today, is having this traceability ensures that there's purchase assurance, credible sustainability claims. There is no illegal fish product within the MSC, and that is also involved in the seafood fraud. Seafood fraud is huge right now, as we discussed. So who do we do this for? In your case, pet food. I sent Drew these details, a little bit of data out of our recent GlobeScan survey, touching on demographics, male, female, age groups, all different genders. What we found is you can see that pollution of the oceans from a pet food buyer, pollution of the oceans and overfishing are the top two points that consumers, pet food consumers, are really concerned about when it comes to buying product that contains fish. There is a large percentage of people that actually trust a science-based institution, which is the MSC. We are not a ratings or recommendation-based program. We are actually science. We have a team of scientists that are based in London, England, that actually do the science of this studies. Some other, just quickly, people trust the claims of the following on pet food. 76% of pet food consumers trust the MSC and trust looking for our label versus 65% of non-pet food buyers. 59% of people, have confidence in the MSC Eco label when they're purchasing their pet food. 40% of people actually get excited about buying pet food with eco labels because, as JF will touch on, people are concerned a lot about what goes in their pet foods diets and that these days. So finally, I think this is my last slide, about 35% of people want to stand out from the crowd a bit by using their pet food that comes from an MSC supplier versus non-pet food. So based on that, I'm going to pass the microphone over to JF, and he can explain what American Seafoods does. JF, can you control can you control the thing now? Or am I controlling
it? Yeah. Let me. Well, if I don't, I will let you know. So just wanted to say thank you, Ken, for the presentation, and thank you, Kathleen, and Melissa for this opportunity. So what I would like to do is to share with you an example, American Seafood, an example of how sustainability and management of the resources are done in the Northwest Pacific. So next slide. For some reason, I don't have the screen anymore. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. But I don't see
the
presentation. I don't know what happened there, but everybody sees the presentation because can you take it back? It's going to be much faster that way. I'm not quite sure what happened there.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I've switched your, can you see my screen at all? I haven't done
No, I don't.
anything.
I'll
I
fix
don't.
it, guys. Give me just 1 second.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, we've given it back to Ken.
Okay. Can everybody see it?
All right.
Okay.
We can
Good.
JF, I'll switch. You just, I'll put on mute and you just tell me when to switch.
Okay, very good. So next slide, I just wanted to introduce that very important topic by letting you know that we believe this is part of a major, a larger trend, humanization. Obviously, this mega trend is driving the pet food industry, and sustainability is one of the elements of this humanization, trying to give to your pet the best pet food possible. You can click, Ken, on the next slide. Here we go. Next, sorry. So you have here a few examples of what a truly sustainable pet food looks like, and MSC certification is there on most of those packagings. You will see that globally, more and more pet food brands are trying to propose some products that are either way MSC certified, or there are other certification available, but the communication around that sustainability is a key element of their strategy. So not only MSC, but you can also see Champion Transparency Council. That is very interesting case study. The fact that not only they are communicating on traceability, the source of proteins or ingredients, but they also want to become more transparent, more to share more information about their product to their consumers. Next slide. Some statistics I would like to share with you about the concerns consumers have about sustainability. 85% of consumers feel that this is sustainability is important to them. And on those 85%, you can see that 29% are engaged and 29% are actively engaged. That is much higher than on the food side, and that's a very interesting point here to highlight the fact that the pet food consumer seems to be even more aware about those concerns and the fact that the product needs to be sustainable than on the food side. Next slide. So how do we respond to that mega trend and to this need to provide more sustainable pet food? Well, at American Seafood, we believe that as a supplier of the pet food industry, we have a responsibility to improve the industry as a whole, and we have a leadership role to play due to the fact that we are already set up as a sustainable fishery. We joined PSC in October 2018, and not just to be part of the PSC, but because we believe that we have an active role to play, and PSC is actually a way for us to be able to be more impactful in the pet food industry versus doing it on our own. So it's a voice, if you want, for suppliers like American Seafood Company. Next slide. So into details, I'm going to go to certification, but also how we manage our resources. So the certification is a very key element because it improves the trust. It's a way to be more visible with customers and consumers. And so we have two certifications. One is MSC, the most recognized and well-known certification for sustainable fisheries. We do have another less well-known certification called RFM, Responsible Fisheries Management. It's recognized by the GSSI, and it follows the FAO model. So those two certifications really are really the highest standard you can find in the food industry. Next slide. If you look at this chart, you will see that the wild Alaska pollock and the wild Pacific hake, the two fish we are harvesting, are among the best ranked fisheries in the world, with 96.3% point, for the wild Alaska pollock, #1 in the world, and 95.5 for the wild Pacific hake. Those scores are, I can tell that we are very, very proud of that. It means that we are doing things the right way, and we need to continue that path. Next slide, Ken. In terms of resources management now, so you can see that we do have two areas where we are fishing the pollock and the hake. Bering Sea for the pollock, one of the most pristine seas in the world, and we are very much aware of that and what the consequences on fishing pollock in that area can be. So we want to protect that patrimony, that asset, and to be able to survive and to continue fishing in the future, we must protect that area and make sure that we are not overfishing, we are not taking the resource without care. So again, managing the resource and making sure that we are not overfishing is very important for us. It's our future. And this is the same for the hake fishery. That fishery is located south on the Oregon coast. And again, it is today scored as, the score is around 95%. So we believe that we are doing things the right way. Another element in terms of sustainability is to use what we fish at its best. So not only to serve the food industry, but also it is important to utilize and to value what we call the byproducts, which is all the materials that are not used by human beings. So that includes the skin, fish meal, the bones, etc. 100% of the fish is fully utilized, and thank you the pet food industry for helping us to do so, because it is a very good way to value those products that are actually extremely nutritional, extremely rich in protein and fat. Next slide. So how much fish do we catch every year? And that's a very important question. You will see here that on a population of 100 fish, we only take 15 fish every year. And that population is reproducing at a speed allowing us to take fish without decreasing the population. The population has been steady and striking, for the last 30 years. It is very, very stable, and the fact that we are taking those fish is not impacting negatively the entire population. It is actually, in a way, helping the population to continue developing, due to the fact that we are removing fish that are at a mature size, so they are not eating the small fish. So we are helping small fish, the baby fish, if you want, less than a year, to develop and to reproduce as well. Next. So our commitment doesn't stop there. We are also trying to improve every day our operations by limiting the use of fresh water. And that number might surprise you, but we are actually not using any fresh water at all. And you can see, compared to vegetables or dairy products, we are doing very good. The reason is that we are actually producing our own water on board of our vessels. So it's a very clean operation, and that is something we are very proud of as well. Next. So this slide is extremely interesting, and it shows how committed American Seafood Company is towards sustainability. We have performed two deep dive carbon footprint studies during the last 10 years. And to our surprise, we are actually very well ranked. We are using only 1.13 for the Alaska pollock and 1.56 kilogram of CO2 per kg of food for the hake. So those are extremely low. If you look at the numbers like almonds, for instance, or soy, they are higher in terms of gas emissions than American seafood pollock or hake. And to compare that with some other proteins found in the pet food industry, for instance, cod is at 3.5. The pork is 5 times higher than Alaska pollock, and beef, the highest, is 25 times higher than Alaska pollock. So this protein is a very, very sustainable one, and if you use that protein, you can also decrease your carbon footprint significantly, especially considering the inclusion rate of this type of material in the finished product. Next. So Ken insisted on traceability, and one of the reasons why MSC is so important, and I wanted to concur and to confirm that traceability is actually extremely important for us, and MSC has been helping us a lot to do so. This is a requirement from the pet food industry, pretty recent, due to the fact that, as you explained, Ken, there is a lack of trust, and we need to change that. And the only way to change it is to be transparent and to show where our fish are coming from, how they are caught, etc., etc. So, very important point. Next. Can you move to the next step? Okay, thank you. So how does it work practically? We do have federal observers on board of our vessels 24/7. That means that there is nothing we can hide. The quantity of fish harvested, the quota, are they respected or not? Everything is tracked in each of our vessels. So we do have a third party watching what we are doing nonstop. There is no way we can tweak the numbers or imagine having on a regular basis constantly an observer in your plant, looking at what you're doing, making sure you're doing the right way. Well, this is what's happening with us in our vessels. So extremely well controlled, if you want, in terms of sustainability. Next slide. So just to summarize, we can consider this to be our KPI of sustainability. So we are MSC certified, and we try to manage at its best all our resources, and we do have a third party looking at what we are doing. We have zero freshwater use in our production. And the last one is the lowest carbon footprint. Again, less than 2 kilograms of CO2 per kilogram of food. This is very low. We consider those to be our KPI of sustainability at this point. But we are not stopping there. We also consider that sustainability is not just about the resources and the environment. It's also about people and how we treat people, how we involve our employees on a daily basis. So social sustainability means for us empowering our employees, letting them participate, contribute to our corporate social responsibility. It is also about letting them contribute to making the workplace a better place. we see social sustainability as an opportunity to develop a collaborative culture, to break down silos, and to develop individual leadership. And to be honest, this is very fun to do. I mean, it's not business as usual. It's something on the side of every employee's daily task, and I think it makes life and the workplace much better every day. Next. We also heavily contribute, I have to say, and I have never seen that in my entire career so far, how much American Seafood is investing in local communities. So we are fishing in the Bering Sea, and you have in that area in Alaska many native communities that are living with fish. Fish for them is a very key resource. So in order to help them survive, because most of the time this is what they are doing, they are surviving, we are part of a program that provide a quota to all those populations. This is what we call the CDQ. So they are not necessarily, so what it means is that they have a percentage of the total quota to fish. It is around 10%. They are not necessarily going to fish themselves because they don't necessarily have the capital investment to do so, but they own the resource. So they can give us a part of their quota. We will fish for them, and we will give them the money at the end of the day. There are 65 communities associated with the CDQ program, so it's pretty significant, and 80% of those communities are Alaska Native. Next. So to give you an example of what we do on a daily basis, this is not very important. This is not very big, but it's a contribution, and I think it means a lot for the company to also try to contribute to the pet food industry and to fundraising. We at the end of 2018, we participated to a local adoption program, and we physically contributed to their fundraising by giving a basket of different products found on the market, but also to give our own money to this local adoption program.
JF and Ken, thank you so much for that amazing presentation. I'm keeping an eye on the question box. We do have one question from David. David, thanks so much for joining us. This question is for JF. He wants to know, how many observers are there?
Well, there is one
boats, I'm guessing.
On the vessel, there is one observer per vessel. So we have 6 vessels. That means 6 observers. So, but they do sleep. Yeah, they do take a nap once in a while.
We want everybody to be healthy. Yeah, so there's one observer per boat, as long as they're not on a nap time. So thank you for that question, Jane. Anybody else? Are there any other questions? While we're waiting to see if those come in, I want to thank everyone for joining us. I will be following up with you with a video of our time together today, and also with contact information for myself, for JF at American Seafoods, and Ken at Marine Stewardship Council, for anybody that would like to follow up with them. We do have a question for Ken. Ken, the question is, what percentage of, let me read this again. What percentage of MSC certifications are for processed versus food? So I'm guessing they're saying what percentage of MSC certifications is going towards ingredients and what is going to actual kind of whole fish or anything else?
I don't have exact numbers on those. I'd be happy to get them for whoever answered. That may be a better one, I guess, to go to JF, because as JF said, about 100% of the fish is used. I would say on an average fish, 40 to 50% are usable fillets to go to consumers.
That is
Am I
correct.
right in that? Yeah, and
Yes, you
so
are.
you're pretty close to 60, depending on the species of fish, is dependent
Yeah.
upon the waste. So they're doing such great work at refining, tuna oil from bones and necks and collars and everything else. So, and again, as JF said, thanks to all you who are looking at ways to use up and utilize the waste and streamline
Absolutely.
everyone's process down there. So.
Yeah. So just to add to your explanation, Ken, you're correct. 50% of the product are fillet sold to the food industry, and they are all MSC certified with chain of custody. But the pet food ingredients, fish meal, fish oil, etc., are also MSC certified with also chain of custody. And this is why you can see the MSC logo on some finished pet food. It means that the entire chain has been verified and approved by MSC. It doesn't clearly answer your question about the percentage, but I think there is as many certification on the ingredient side that there is on the pet food side, the finished product side. To be able to have the certification and the logo on your packaging, you must prove that all your suppliers are also MSC certified. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, and if I can just add where this helps along that supply chain, if you're a brand owner and you're putting a brand of pet food out into the marketplace and you're using a co-packer, by having that MSC logo on your package, that is an assurance to you that there's also that additional credibility claim that has to be on your suppliers, because they get audited on a yearly basis through their auditor of their choice that audits to the MSC standards, to ensure that if they're using 10,000 pounds of American seafood product that's MSC certified, that in fact they are using that product. So I think we all know that the oil and the benefits of a wild Alaskan salmon versus a farmed Atlantic salmon are considerably more. So it just assures that your co-packer is not using a farmed tilapia as a white fish or a different kind of species than what they're actually claiming on the package. So that's when I mentioned about the credibility and risk mitigation and everything on you as a supplier, that you know exactly from a seafood perspective what is in that package.
Thank you so much, Ken. Thank you so much, JF, for taking the time to join us as well. We are taking a break from our webinar series in August in observance of Super Zoo, but we'll be back in September. So you can make sure that you're keeping a look on our website to see when that's going to be. And in the meantime, if you have any questions for myself about PSC, about JF, about American Seafoods, or about I'll make sure that everybody has that information so they can follow up. So thank you so much again for joining us, and gentlemen, for presenting. And have a great rest of your day. Thanks.
Thank you, Melissa. See you at Super Zoo.